All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, after Aaron Judge's historic season, it was going to be very hard to deny him the American League MVP award. And yesterday, what most of us expected to happen did, as Judge was awarded the AL MVP award for the 2022 MLB season. Now, Judge became the 14th different player to represent the New York Yankees and win the award. And it also marks the 23rd time that someone who has worn the pinstripes will be taking the hardware home. Of course, when you factor in that players such as Lou Gehrig and Alex Rodriguez, just to name a few, won the award multiple times while playing for the Yankees. Now, this past season, Judge flirted with getting the Triple Crown as his 311 batting average was second in the American League, while, of course, he led the American League in both home runs and RBIs. Now, Judge received 28 of the 31st place votes this year, with the other two going to Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Angels. Now, make no mistake about it, Shohei is a tremendous player, and he had a tremendous season as he hit 273 to go along with 34 home runs, 95 runs batted in, and then not to mention he was 15-9 on the mound for the Halos with a 2.33 ERA with 219 strikeouts and 166 innings pitched. Now, Shohei won this award last year, and he made a very compelling case once again this year. But Judge's historic season, and you're talking about a guy that not only hit more than 60 home runs, set an American League record, and then also, set a single season record for the Yankees because, of course, the holder of that mark for so many years was the late great Roger Maris when he hit 61 home runs in 1961 for the Yankees. CJ, what is going on, my good guy? As always, pleasure to have you on here. And like I promised you last night I was going to be talking about some baseball tonight, and we're talking about this AL MVP award. Basically, went down the way that I expected. And just switching gears real quick, I expected Paul Goldschmidt to win the NL MVP, which he did earlier in this week. Very compelling case from his teammate with Nolan Arenado. And then, of course, Manny Machado from the San Diego Padres being sandwiched between those two Cardinals. But nonetheless, Goldie took the award home. And then, of course, Judge took the American League award home. And it's a very interesting season here because you think about it, where Shohei made a very compelling case again. But I think what hurt him was the fact that the Angels once again finished with a losing record. They were 16 games under 500. They had some high expectations coming into the season, didn't work out. Of course, Joe Madden got fired early on. But where would the Yankees have been without Aaron Judge? Remember, this team won the East, arguably the toughest division in baseball, or one of the toughest divisions in baseball, got to the ALCS before they got swept by the Astros. Of course, Judge didn't have a strong postseason, but honestly, a lot of guys on the Yankees did not have a strong postseason as well, and that was a big reason why they got shown the door by the Astros in the LCS. Yeah, I know you're a Braves fan, and Michael Harris did win the Rookie of the Year, beat out his teammate Spencer Strider. So when you see that, just talking about the Braves right here, when you see that, you know that this team is set up to contend for many years to come. I mean, I talked about it going back to March when the season was about to begin. I talked about Austin Riley being an NL MVP candidate, had a solid year, just didn't have the type of year that Paul Goldschmidt did, of course, for the Braves. But there's plenty of young talent there. Braves are probably going to lose Dansby Swanson in free agency, but I expect the Braves to make some moves nonetheless for themselves, as they're going to be right back in that mix. But thinking ahead to next season with that division alone, you're going to have the Braves, Phillies, and Mets expected to once again be in contention, and the NL East is definitely going to be a battle. It's going to be interesting to see who Mr. Judge is playing for, and will he possibly shift gears to the National League, because Aaron Judge gambled on himself, but the Yankees gambled on him as well. But at the end of the day, it's about to pay off. We all know about the negotiations that went south between Judge and the Yankees prior to the start of this past season. And, the Yankees tried to make Judge out to be the villain, and he balled out. And the fans had no choice but to respect him. Of course, they booed him uh, during the postseason when he didn't come up big, because, of course, in New York City, the folks there, they're only worried about what you do in October in baseball, especially when you put on the pinstripes, because the expectation level goes to another level. Because we've seen so many players over the years for the Yankees step up in those moments, a la Reggie Jackson and Derek Jeter. But on the flip side, you've had guys like Dave Winfield who didn't, step up in the way that the fans and, of course, former team owner George Steinbrenner expected them to do. And, of course, the rest is history. But yeah, getting back to Dansby, it's going to be interesting to see, because somebody's going to throw him a ton of money. And that's what's going to happen with a lot of these guys. Just switching gears to talk about free agency for a moment as a whole. You hear the rumors going around on Twitter for what a player like Brandon Nimmo is probably going to get, on the open market. And if those rumors are true, I don't expect the Mets to retain him just for that price. But nonetheless, it's always going to take one team to do something drastic, and it's always going to take that one team to be a little bit desperate to overpay for a guy, and then the market kind of gets messed up. But in regards to Judge, he's a star player in a free agency class that's full of a lot of high profile guys. And the bottom line is Judge is going to get money. I talked about it being at least $300 million prior to the end of the season. I talked about this probably since August about what Judge was going to get. And at the end of the day, the Yankees sound like they want to keep Judge, but the bottom line is they're going to have to pony up the bread, and it's going to take at least 300, maybe close to $350 million, because if you get some of the other big market teams in the mix, and I expect it to happen, I expect the San Francisco Giants to make a push. There always could be another team or two that's going to be interested in the services of Judge, but make no mistake about it, the Yankees are going to have to pony up the bread. I know you hate the Yankees, and I mean the Braves, Yankee rivalry, of course, going back to the '90s when they met in those two fall classics. But nonetheless, it's going to be a situation, even with Judge. I think Judge is probably going to get overpaid because, Aaron Judge is a darn good player, but I just don't see a scenario where he comes close to replicating what we saw from him this past season. So, with that said, somebody's going to make a splash. Somebody's going to pay him a ton of money. Somebody's going to overpay for some of these guys in free agency. But when it's all said and done, that's the name of the game. So I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying this. The ball is in the Yankees' court. They should have tried to take care of this when they had an opportunity to do it. But, again, part of it is just the fact that I really feel that Brian Cashman is just too comfortable in his position as the Yankees general manager. I've been saying it for the longest time. He's been there too long. And when you're there that long in that position, the comfort sinks in. And honestly, my opinion, Brian Cashman is about a sentence or two away from speaking in third person. That's how comfortable and cocky he is running the Yankees front office. But nonetheless, there's possibility the Judge comes back to the Bronx. I'm not holding my breath on it because at the end of the day, money talks. CJ, you're talking about the Braves needing to keep Dansby and lock up Max Fried. One thing about Alex Anthopoulos and going back to his time with Toronto, I think he got a raw deal when he turned things around for the Blue Jays up there. But nonetheless, he's a guy that not only knows how to find talent, but he knows how to keep it. And as long as the Braves ownership is going to give him free reign to go out there and lock these guys up, then you know what, he's going to do it. And kudos to the Braves because what they've been doing so far with their youngsters, they've been getting them to extensions before they hit the market. Um, so it's one of those where you know what, you're protecting yourself long term, and that's going to give you an opportunity to continue to compete. Obviously, this October and November, of course, because the Braves didn't get there, it didn't work out for them in the fashion that they did. But you can expect this team to once again be in contention next year with so much talent coming back, even if they're unable to retain the services of one Dansby Swanson. But nonetheless, a guy like Judge picked the right time to have a career year. It resulted in him becoming the American League MVP. And then on top of that, he's about to become the MVP of the bank, no pun intended, because he's really about to cash in. And I'll probably say within the next month or so, when this is all said and done. But Judge is going to be a $300 million guy. It's just going to be a matter of how many dollars, as well as how many years, and which team is going to be ready to pony up the bread for his services. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. CJ, as always, it was a pleasure. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you and I appreciate the continued support. And I hope to have you, see you back on here and continuing to be back on here because I will be talking real soon. Don't know exactly when, but I'll hit you up talking real soon about the hot stove. I'm ready, just waiting to see if we can get some signings, going, and then I'll definitely be talking about some stuff. But with that said, folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, saying thanks again for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube.